Fair warning in advance, guys, while I was editing this, I noticed how long this was going to take. It is pretty dry content, but a ton of it has great info, including possible classes, leveling systems, player-owned housing, and much more. I have decided to split the video into two separate ones so I don't overload you with too much at once. So please, if you want to know questions, or if you have any questions about the game, these aren't done in any specific order. They are done in the order that they were asked on the Discord and that the devs have responded to. Also know that a lot of these are broad answers and broad subjects just because the game's not out, but it does give you at least an idea. So I hope you guys stay tuned, and let's get to the start of this video. Hello Zenith community, I'm back with another video about the new and upcoming VR MMORPG Zenith: The Last City. Since my previous video did well, and I noticed a lot of people had questions, I figured this would be a great topic to cover, and if you'd like to read along or look at the content yourselves, you can use the Discord link in the description, as it is the official Zenith Discord. The mods there are helpful, responsive, and willing to answer your questions that aren't covered. Also keep in mind that this game is not yet in pre-alpha, and any of the content is subject to change. Ramen VR is planning an ambitious game with a huge amount of content, but not everything mentioned will make it on release, or may never actually end up in the game, depending on the direction of Zenith. They have a great PR team, and have a lot of content to cover with a huge focus on community feedback, and plan to continually add features to the game even after release. Without further delay, let's get to the daily Ask Me Anything answers from Ramen VR. So the first question we have here for the daily AMA answers is there going to be any other focus that aren't related to combat? So the Ramen VR goes ahead and lets them know that there are going to be guilds. It's going to be a lot of community-based focus. There's going to be gathering, crafting, and then they also go into this interesting section here. They're going to eventually they want to add creation tools, and this is going to lead to community driven and made levels, which I think is going to be awesome. So we'll see how that turns out. They also continue to say that it's pretty far off and that they don't plan on doing that on release. Okay, so the next question we have is, what are the main strengths of the game going to be in the end, and what do you believe will make the game stand out from all others? Now you can read this entire long article written, or I pretty much summed it up for you, and I'll tell you my concerns about the answer. So the tech they're building is to support a larger and expansive world than just what's released, of course. So it pretty much makes it easier for them to add content in the future. That way anything that the players have as feedback can be changed or added on in the future, and they just continuously want to add things. They also said they want to do more than just kill monsters and crafting like other MMOs, and they want to build their own. They want to let the players build their own experiences, which leads back to the community-made content that they mentioned before. They said that they want to introduce a unique and immersive combat system and reimagine how MMORPGs work from the ground up. They don't plan on just being a fantasy, sci-fi, or just cyberpunk, but instead a mixture of all of them together. Now the problem I have with these two last things are things that we've heard literally everywhere. So introduce a unique and immersive combat system and reimagine how MMORPGs work. That is like the thing that all MMORPGs and all games really say. But depending on how this rolls out, I mean, everything we've seen from them is good so far. Another thing that kind of concerns me is they don't plan to just be fantasy, sci-fi. They're not really picking a scope. Instead, they're trying to make it really broad, which could end up hurting them in the long run. But from what we've seen from gameplay and the pre-alpha that was released the other day, I don't think we have anything to worry about with that last one. It's just the introduce a unique and immersive combat system. How many times have we heard that, right? It's not a bad thing. It's good that they have it out there, and we'll go ahead and cover more of what they plan to do with the class and the assignment system for leveling up later in the video. There is a question over it and an answer, but just it seems like a pretty broad overall statement that any MMORPG throws out there. Okay, so this next question is pretty long, and I don't like how it's asked, but I'll go ahead and sum it up for you. How do you plan to include the vast amount of MMO data normally presented as UI through the VR HUDs, and pretty much will there be add-ons that allow you to alter the HUDs? And the answer to this is they don't want a cluttered HUD or anything that makes you feel claustrophobic. They want it to be minimalistic, and that they don't really have any plans. It's very low on their priority pool to make add-ons or compatibility for add-ons as far as UI goes. And for VR, I really don't see this being an issue at all. I don't like this question. I don't like that it was picked, but I guess it was the most voted. And it's asked in a confusing way, in a very very jargon kind of wording and stuff, and it's just it's UI. I understand it's important. We've already seen the pre-alpha gameplay though, so I guess it's kind of easier for us to understand than it was a year ago when people were asking these questions. Will weapons and or hands have weight physics? I think VR gets way more immersive when my hand don't pass through walls. So yeah, this is something that is pretty annoying to see in a lot of VR games when you just walk around and your hands go through everything. Again, it's not a huge issue. It does break immersion, but they say that they want to have physics and stuff, but it is a huge system to bring in. They may not have it on a release, they may not have it on alpha or beta, but they do eventually plan on adding stuff like that. It's lower on their totem pole though, as they'd rather have a working game first. Our next question, will there be any opportunities for players to become part of the lore and create their own in-world identity? So the short answer to this is no, and I'm going to tell you why. By the time players are actually playing, the lore is already decided, the arc is decided. You're not going to be part of the lore. I would think it's cool if they maybe added something as soon as everyone reached max level, have the person that first reached max level, max combat, and then have the people, each person that reach like max crafting, a certain crafting skill, put them in the lore as just master crafters and just kind of add them in. That's it's a done deal. You don't have to actually give them a backstory or anything. Maybe just make a character that's a salesman or something, saleswoman. I think that would be really great, but they don't have plans on that. Again, low on the totem pole as far as things go. Is an interesting thing. I do like that feedback though. Next one, a lot of you have actually put in the comment section, and I've seen posted all over the Zenith Discord. How many classes are you currently thinking of making? And if you can, could you give us a hint? So the confirmed classes so far are Essence Mage, which is of course a mage, and the Blade Master, which is dual wield. They do eventually want to add things with either a gun or a bow, ranged class, and they also want to create a stealth rogue class. They kind of give us a sneak peek of what they plan to do. They say whatever we pick needs to be versatile enough to play tank, DPS, or support roles, meaning they don't want you locked down just because of the class you pick, which I think is awesome, and I'm really looking forward to see how they do this. Okay, this next question, how will leveling up work? Will you need to choose a specific specialization and upgrade that, or will you get generic upgrades? This one's answered pretty easily. They're excited about their specialization progression, and they plan to let you have a specialization but not lock you into that, meaning you'll be able to specialize in multiple things. And also they plan to have a huge emphasis on letting you play the way you want to play and giving you a lot of customization options as far as your skill and how your class is played, which I think is really important in MMOs. Next question here is, will there be any single social place hubs for players who want to socialize, or will there be numerous beautiful and peaceful locations to discover? Also, will there be any hidden locations and a way to fast travel between them? So yes, there's going to be hubs. Obviously, we saw the Zenith, the last city hub, and then we've also seen videos where they go around where the ships are. I'm guessing those are also other hubs. They also go on to say that they have a lot of hidden locations that you're going to be able to either find by sharing with your fellow Zenith players, or just walking around yourself and finding these hidden locations. They also do have fast travel systems, and the way they put this is you're going to have to, of course, go there to unlock it first, and once you unlock it, you're going to be able to fast travel to those locations. Next question, so how will the customization work in the game? Eye color, head shape, hairstyle, skin color, gender, height, weight, eye shape. How much customization will there be? The way they go on to answer this is just a very generic answer. Like I said, these were answers given last year, and they said right now they're just going to have generic options. They plan to have a lot of customizations. They want people to customize their characters a lot due to the staff they have, and of course their goals of actually getting a working game. They don't have anything as advanced as sliders, you see in a lot of Korean MMOs or anything like that. But they do eventually plan to have a lot of different options for you. And they said this necessarily won't be on release or an alpha or in beta. It really just depends. Again, this was written last year. They could have already added a bunch more customization. We just haven't seen it yet. All right, this next question is really interesting, and I really like it. In many games, the community often shares information via walkthroughs on the internet, fan wikis, and since this is a VR game and as perhaps part of the user-generated content aspect of the game, there could be a system for players to write guidebooks or something like this to the benefit of other players, and a system where you pretty much write the book and you'd be able to sell and distribute it to other players. And the reason for this, I think this person wrote, is because they don't want to take off their headset, or they may not have a virtual desktop or anything to pull up Google. But I do think it's a very interesting and awesome idea to have in a game. I've always wanted it to where you could write your own books and share your own stories and sell them in the game. Personally, I just think that would be super immersive. And I mean, you could have a favorite author or something, go into their shop, or always look out for their books and share it with friends that you like in the game, or you read something and then you give it to your guild mates or your friends. I think it's just super awesome if they added this. So the answer that they give is they do plan on having community shared content. They haven't thought of this ideal yet, but it is an interesting ideal. Again, not on the top of their totem pole yet, but they say that they do really enjoy the thought of this. Next question is, how will stat assignment work? Will it be a point-based system where as you level up you gain points, or will it be a skill system where the longer you use the skill you level up the skill? And the answer to this is they haven't nailed anything down yet. They're not 100% certain which one they're going to do, but they say they want to do a mixture of both, to where if you're playing a tank you get defensive XP, or if you're playing DPS you get attack XP, and on top of that, whilst leveling up, you get points that you can assign to your specialization. Okay, next question may be a bummer to some of you, so pay attention if this is you. How will inter-guild interactions work? Will there be the ability to raid or loot other guilds and give alliances and enemies to real consequences and meaning? Will there be ways to allow allies into your guild hall and share guild storage? Finally, how large will guild storage be? Not a huge thing. Pretty much they go into this saying that raiding and looting, that part of big world PvP isn't in their goal. They want to make a more PvE experience. Not saying that they won't have PvP, but guild versus guild isn't something they're looking at right now. And as they said previously at the beginning of the video, they do plan on having player or community driven content, so this is something that could be added by a player eventually too, but it's not something they're going to focus on. They really don't have any specific answers as far as the storage system goes. They do plan to have a storage system in your guild house, a standard where people that are in your guild can withdraw and deposit into the guild storage. They don't have anything to where you can make alliances. They don't have that planned yet, or if you can sign and make enemies from another guild as well. They don't have anything implemented as of now, and they really don't have it. It's not in their goal section. Again, this was a year ago. This could have changed. Will there be text-based chat system implemented into the game for VR users who don't wish to talk? Answer to this is yes, they plan on having it. May not be during alpha or beta, but it's really simple to do apparently with the system they have, and they don't mind adding it at all. Next question, is there going to be a compelling lore-based reason for us to strive for in-game content, a clear goal like SEO? The answer to this is yes, they will have a storyline that they're pretty excited about, but they don't have a long storyline. The typical real difficulty ramp of an MMO is when you're at max level. They plan to have that same process. After that, their main content is going to be continuously adding dungeons and boss content for you and other players with multiple difficulty levels. So you can have, like, I'm guessing they're going to have like tier dungeons where it's going to be easy, normal, and then maybe hard, something like that. So we'll see in the future. Question is, will you be able to purchase different types of homes in different parts of the world? Can you own multiple homes at once? And will there be different price ranges? And how customizable do they plan on making them? Now, some of this is left very vaguely, and the Ramen VR even states in there that they're being vague just because they don't have it that planned out yet. But they definitely plan on having player-owned housing, and they, of course, are going to have multiple options in multiple areas. There's going to be price ranges. I guess if you have a bigger lot, bigger land, then you're going to have to pay more. They said that at the beginning they only plan for everyone to have one house, to be able to have one house at a time, with plans to upgrade that when their system is able. It's not a huge focus for them right now, but they do plan on just having one right now, with the focus being on how customizable they want the inside to be, which kind of concerns me because I really want to be able to decorate the outside as well, like Final Fantasy XIV. Great player-owned housing. If you haven't seen what they do with player-owned housing, you should definitely look up a video. I think that is like top tier right there. So I'm really excited to see, with them drawing inspiration from Final Fantasy, maybe they'll add outdoor decorating later as well. And but they're saying that their main focus right now is indoor decorating with as many customization options as they can get. Again, going back to the start of the video, hopefully you'll be able to add some community-made content, whether that be pictures or maybe there's 3D models you can bring in. That would be really awesome to see. Our next question is very simple. What's the average party size you're aiming for in the group content? Will it vary? Of course, it's going to vary depending on the content that you play against, but again, this is an early question. They may have not known as much as we do now. I would imagine that the normal content would be scaled to fit between 1 to 4 players, whereas raids and in-game content could have much more. They don't put a specific number on it. They do say they want guilds and stuff to be able to participate with certain roles and have a whole party system, but we'll see what they do in the future. This next question I was thinking about skipping. I'll go ahead and cover it because the answer is very broad, and it's just a really weird answer, but because of videos we've seen, I'm going to put my 2 cents at the end of it. What kinds of environmental effects can we expect? Will there be day and night cycles, wind, weather features, ambient effects, surround sound, and a bunch of other stuff? He said, thanks for the question. Weather and ambient effects are cool. They're immersive, especially in VR, and they don't know what they're going to add yet. They're not 100% sure. They do enjoy it, but it's going to be something they do later. It's not a huge deal in their development as of yet. Now, I will say, in the video that we watched of them doing the 30-minute stream, you could see birds and stuff flying around. They said that they were still working on it, and you could also see in some of their trailers that depending on the area you're in, the ambiance and the setting is changing. I'm not sure if there's a day and night cycle. Didn't look like it. That would be great. It seems like it would be pretty simple to add in a day and night cycle. I'm not a developer. I don't know. But weather seems like where the difficult part of that is. How often do you want it to snow? How often do you want it to rain? But that would be something really cool to see in a VR MMO. Next question is, what kind of stat items will there be in game? Most RPGs have potions and food that you can heal and give status effects. Is there any plan for something like this in Zenith? The answer is yes. They're going to have multiple types of consumables with food and potions. They say they don't want a tactile feel, so if it's a potion, they're going to want you to look up and drink it, kind of like Orbis VR. And they like the idea of crystals, so essence crystals. I think I've seen it in SEO. It's been forever since I've seen SEO, where you take it and you break it or something, and then from that you get the effect instead of drinking it. I'm going to say right now, I'm not a huge fan of drinking potions, especially when you're mid-fight or something. It just feels really weird, and I don't want to say childish, but it just is a weird feeling for me to grab nothing and then lift it above my head while looking up. But I guess everyone has their own preference. I would much prefer these crystallized stones if that's what they were actually going for. That's the only time I've seen them. I'm not sure what other game would use that, or maybe I'm just drawing a blank in my memory. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. They say that you're going to have a status effect like heal over time, or you're just going to have potions that heal you straight up. And for more information, they said that you're just going to have to continue to wait. All right, this next question is pretty cool, kind of heartwarming, depending on what type of person you are. Will the game include custom events where you can invite friends or players in general, marriage systems, wedding parties, birthday parties, banquets, hangouts, or even big trade events, and so on and so forth? The answer is yes. So they want to support as much non-combat social events that they can. They go on to say that other people may not know it, but the way they met their wife was marrying them in Final Fantasy XIV first, and then eventually they got married in real life, met up and everything. Unfortunately, they're not going to have it on launch. It's just not plausible with their goals, their direction that they're taking, but they do plan on having a huge social and community-driven game, as we have seen from the previous comments, as we've heard from the developers over and over and over again. So I'm super excited about this. I love games that have this stuff in it, not the marrying so much, but as far as just being able to go and party, something that I would like to see in this game is in the last city. It kind of looks very Tokyo-esque, if you will. It has a kind of skyscrapers or big buildings, so I'm not going to say skyscrapers. It would be cool to see community maps inside those buildings. So like you walk past a building, there's a door, and it's like the top 5 voted community maps of the week or the month, and you walk in and it like teleports you to that community driven content. I would like there to be like a bar set up or something where if you walk in, it's just everyone sitting on a bench and just talking. And I would also like there to be maybe like an instance karaoke where you can go to the last city in Zenith and be able to go to the Tokyo or the karaoke bar and be able to just like hang out, have fun, things like that. That isn't technically community driven, but it's something that's there all the time that you know where it's going to be, instead of the community driven content that's voted on and rotated out. That's just my 2 cents. I think it'd be really awesome for things like that. That way you could always say, hey, you want to go to the last city and do some karaoke, jump in with a party and have an instanced area, or just jump into a bar to meet people, maybe pick up some quests or look for raids. I think that would be awesome. Next question is, what are your hopes for the guild system in the future? He's going to say that they haven't nailed anything down yet. Nothing is confirmed, but what they do plan on having is guild members, guild ranks, guild status, and things like that. Anything other than that is not going to be confirmed. It's not going to be out yet, just because they want to make sure they have a working game with a balanced class system and everything before they go too much into guild stuff. They plan that they want to really add on to the guild system, just not at the beginning. Don't plan on having too many bells and whistles, as they call it, too many options as far as the beginning goes. They also say that they are very happy to see how the Discord is actually done in the guild Discord. There's a lot of guilds in the guild Discord already, or in the Zenith Discord already, that you can join. You can look them up. It tells you how many players are in that guild already, and it's absolutely insane. They said that they're really happy about seeing that, and that it is 100% community driven, everything so far. And what they plan on adding on is things that have already been mentioned. And they are just really pleased with the community so far, which is great, because I've been in this Discord for a while, and I've seen a lot of great things from this Discord, a lot of things posted in general, a lot of things in Zenith discussion, and a lot of feedback that is actually really good feedback, things like request and stuff. So I have a lot of hopes for this game, especially, like I said, how much they contact or keep in contact with the community and all the feedback that they give. This AMA Answers is absolutely amazing section. They have stopped it as of recent to actually start developing the game more, but like I said, this is really great stuff. All right, this next one we've kind of already covered. Will there be any type of firearm included in the games, or will you be limited to bows and crossbows? With this question, they said that they're not going to cover. It's just they're not going to disclose that right now. There are 3 confirmed classes so far. One of them is just question marks on the website. I'm guessing they're going to go bows, but they may very well go guns. I'm not a huge fan of having guns in MMOs, especially kind of fantasy style MMOs like this. But we'll see what they do. They may end up adding both in the future. Who knows? It is a very there was a discussion about it in the Zenith Discord yesterday, or just Zenith discussion, where a lot of people were saying they wanted guns, and then you had the other side saying they wanted bows because guns are overplayed and overpowered. for multiple reasons on both sides. Really great getting into conversations with people in the Discord. But they go on to say that they're not going to discuss anything about the extra classes, and that they don't think you're going to be able to do weapon swapping. So that was another part of this question: is are you going to be able to freely change your weapons out, kind of like Elder Scrolls Online? They say they don't plan to do that. It'd be too hard to balance, which I completely agree with, and it kind of breaks the class system. Although it does open up for a lot of customization, which I enjoy in Elder Scrolls Online. But with the way they're setting this game up, I don't think it'd be beneficial for them to go that route. All right, next question is, will there be cooking in Zenith? And if so, will you be able to level your character and maybe learn new recipes unknown to others? Also cooking for their guildmates, maybe in Guild Hall Kitchen or so. Just wondering, some thoughts on this. Thanks a lot. About these questions, a lot of them ask about things that have already been covered. So like in the Guild Hall Kitchen, they don't know how housing's going to work. They've already stated this multiple times. So it's kind of a waste of material right there. We're going to go over, apparently they were arguing whether they're going to add cooking or not. This kind of alerts me because they were talking about all these skills and stuff that you're going to be able to do outside of combat. Why wouldn't cooking be one of those? That's like one of the main things you do other than combat to stay buffed and keep your guild and party buffed as well. So they said that they were going to add cooking. They do plan for the recipes to be found, a mixture of being found and then recipes that, of course, you know just from leveling up. They don't have anything specific yet, as, like I said, they've been debating it and they just decided to put it in. Again, this was a year ago. They may have released information in a video that I missed or something, but you can expect cooking to be in the game. Just no specifics yet. They may alter it a ton after release, though, like they're doing with a lot of the other stuff, where it may be pretty basic upon release, and then eventually they'll add on to it. All right, this question has a little bit more answer to it on things that we covered in the past already as well. What kind of character creation system will be implemented, and how expensive will it be? Again, they go on to say that they plan on making it very customizable, and the class system, which has been covered as well, they want you to be able to play anything, so you'll be able to be a tanky mage or a blade master healer. You'd be able to spec into all those, very customizable class system, and you're not just stuck to your class as far as what role you're going to play. Here's another good question. Sorry if it has been answered, but how will the loot system work? Will it be instant-based looting or party-based, just open-world loot? Well, party-based, I guess, is different from open-world. They say that they want this to be a believable, immersive world, so they're going to go with the party loot option, where if you're attacking something, it drops just one for the party. You have to share loot and talk with your party and actually, consider each other and each other's classes, things like that. I enjoy this concept, and I think it would work in old MMOs with old communities. But from what I've seen in like the last maybe 8 years of MMO, including what games like World of Warcraft has done and a bunch of others, I don't think this is a good idea. I think instance-based looting is better because it just makes me not want to play with other members. I've been ninja looted so much. I've messaged people, hey, I need this for a certain class that I've played on. And they're like, you know what, just because you need it, I'm going to delete it or drop it and just delete it from my inventory. Things like that. It's just, there are terrible people. And unfortunately, when you get a great mass of people, the amount of bad people also increase with that great mass. I think this is going to be good if it's a smaller community, but we'll see. It just kind of worries me that it's not instant loot because, like I've said, I've had really bad experiences, a lot of bad experiences, not only with me, but I'll be playing with my friend and he'll get something that he needs and they'll ask, and it's really the same thing. They're just bad people all over. Like I said, this would work in an older MMORPG maybe if if this was created like 10 years ago or so. I never had a problem when I started RuneScape. I didn't have a problem when I started WoW Classic, anything like that. It's really just, I guess, now that more people are playing MMOs, you get more of the bully type people playing games and stuff. That's not how it used to be. Gaming used to be like a very nerdy thing looked at. Now there's a lot of people that just play games because they play games. It's not really an inclusive culture anymore. So we'll see how this works out in the future, but like I said, it does give me a little bit of concern. Considering this is an MMO, people are going to want to play it for hours, and this question is pretty much asked, is there a way to combat the amount of time you play and how tired you get? Because it's MMO, you're going to be swinging your sword around or doing emotions for maybe mages. I'm not sure how that's set up. Gameplay hasn't been released for mages yet. But they go on to say that it's an excellent question. They plan for each encounter to last about 15 to 20 seconds for normal mobs, and giving you cool skills on cooldown to reduce the amount you actually have to swing your swords and everything, because that's not fun to just sit there and swing your sword over and over again. So they plan on having skills, and from those skills it'll give you some time to rest in between. They said that the most immersive way to play is standing, but they're going to allow people to sit as well. That's a super huge thing I like going over, because when I play like Pavlov, for example, just Pavlov zombies, I can't sit down and play, I have to stand up. And yeah, of course my legs get very tired after hours of gameplay. So that's what I like about Orbis VR and things like No Man's Sky, for example, that allow you to sit down and play the game, or you could also stand. This question is kind of short and doesn't really give any answer. As one last time, do you plan for the economy to be player-driven, or will it be controlled by the developers? The answer is multiple facets of the economy. Parts of it will be driven by the players. Other parts of it will be developer-driven. For example, we are planning to have an auction house. Anything sold on there would be driven by the price players set. This is pretty standard that you see throughout most MMORPGs. I don't really know what he means by it's controlled by the developers. I think there's been one MMO I've seen where you don't get to make up the price of your items that you sell in like an auction house. It's based on what everyone else is selling it around. I don't even remember where I saw that at, because I'm not a huge trader, so most of the things is just free economy where you price it where you want, and then if someone wants to pay that much, they do. I've never seen developers actually come down and be like, you can't sell this for this price on an open market. But yeah, maybe I do remember a game doing that. I don't know which one it is. I know I didn't play it very long, so maybe you guys can tell me in the description below what game that was, because I do remember there being a game where you could only sell an item at a certain range of what it was currently being sold for. And there was no option to make it more expensive or less expensive. Like, you had to sell it within that range. All right, next question is, what will the diversity between weapons of the same class be? Are you all planning on doing the same thing that Orbis does, where each is just a flat upgrade depending on level? And the answer to this is we aren't following the Orbis model, period. That is a very awesome statement. If you haven't played Orbis, what happens is everything drops based on your level pretty much. So when a weapon drops, it's level 4 because you're level 4. When you get to level 5 stuff will drop, and it's just an instant upgrade. Very, very basic. Orbis is a good VR game. It was good for its time. It's still fun. It has all the basic essentials an MMO needs, but it's not very complex in any way, and it makes it kind of a boring gameplay. Just in my opinion. I know a lot of other people don't like Orbis VR. I know a lot of people that don't even want to try it. I've played Orbis VR. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do think it is a great first step into MMORPG in the VR world, and I think Zenith is going to be that next step. So they're saying that it's we have a ton of cool plans, the weapon enhancements, but he's not going to go over any of that. They do list on an AMA. I think it's further down below, but they pretty much say that they want to add affinities to weapons. So when you go and upgrade weapons, you'll be able to give it like a flame affinity or a light affinity, things of that nature. They say that they're going to have classic rarity types. They're going to have, of course, like the normal, and then the rare edition, and then like maybe a legendary. Maybe not. I'm not going to say that there's legendaries in the game, but something around that, style. They want to build a relationship with weapons that you'll treasure over time instead of just thinking them as fungible objects. They don't want you to get a weapon, think it's really cool, and then just have to throw it out because you gained a level, which I enjoy. I like that. I really hope that they consider putting a cosmetic kind of option in the game early. So what World of Warcraft would have is transmogs. I hope that gets brought to the game early, because there's some early looking armor that may look cool, and then you'll get to a certain level and that the armor type doesn't drop. I don't know if all armor types are going to drop at all levels, just depending on your level is what it kind of drops at around there. But like I said, I'd just like to see a transmog option. I think that would be great. Doesn't really fall in line completely with this, but it definitely gives you a more sense of loving the weapon that you get as a drop. That way you can keep that style. Next question is pretty interesting. What level of communication will be available through voice chat? Proximity based is given, but will there also be party chat and guild chat? I think this is really awesome, because if you're in a guild or whatever, you can switch from proximity and just go straight into guild chat to talk with your guild. I think that's amazing. It'd be pretty cool if you could call up players, kind of like SEO, where you just open your menu and you're able to click a friend and call and be like, hey, I need help with this raid. You want to come over? That would be awesome. I actually like that more than I like guild chat. I think people are just going to end up spending all their time in guild chat. So personally, what I would like to see is just proximity chat, and then you can also have private chats on the side. But that would be it in my game if I was to make it. I do see the use of having guild chat and everything, but then again, that leads to people not being in proximity chat at all, which is kind of boring if you're just walking around and no one's talking. I don't know, like I said, how many of you have played Orbis VR, but a big thing about Orbis VR is kind of cool to walk around and just hear conversations of people talking to each other while walking down. Makes the town feel more alive, the world more alive. And like when you're in public events and everything, it's pretty cool. Of course, you always get those kids that go and scream into the mic, and then you mute them and then never party up with them, because that's their fault. But we're not going to go into that. They said that they are very interested in doing the proximity-based chat as well as the other two. You're going to be able to mute people, of course, mute certain channels if you don't want to listen to them. So really, really cool question that was asked by Mist, and it's a really great answer. So looking forward to this particular feature. Okay, here's a question I think was asked in my last video in the comment section. Did the new Quest 2 unlock more possibilities for development in the game, and have you seen any improvements in the game? Quest 2 is definitely an improvement. They're obviously able to do more. Zenith will be available for both Quest and Quest 2. Quest 2 will probably feature higher graphics fidelity, of course, is a given. However, given that much of the XR2's processing power will be put against the 50% increase in pixels and possible 90 FPS, it's still unknown how much power the Oculus will give us in terms of pure output. And Oculus is still going in and trying to give more power to the Quest 2 and the Rift and everything. They're still giving software updates to try and make the frame rate better. They're trying to get higher hertz in there. Of course, the FPS they're trying to increase. So this is something that's going to change over time. It's not necessarily anything to do with the game developer, but the reason I brought this up, the only reason, is because I believe someone asked me in my last video if it's going to be compatible with the Quest and the Quest 2. I guess they have a Quest and they want a Quest 2, or maybe they are going to buy it on the Quest and eventually plan to upgrade. So yes, it'll be available on both. This question's pretty interesting. I was wondering if there would be skills you could learn outside of leveling up, like if you complete a quest, you get a reward as a skill. Also, will there be a secret, hard to discover skill, or will there be a set skill tree that you can see from the start? Pretty much I said they're not going to go into detail about it, but you will probably, there'll be some skills that are not obtained through just leveling up. However, instead of being completely different skills, these skills may be different variants of existing ones. So different morphs of the same skill. Maybe it adds a poison dot to it, or maybe it also heals you, adds more defense, things like that. Is pretty much what we might end up seeing. I think that's awesome. I think maybe there's going to be like a side quest, right, where you help a priest or a religious faction, and it gives you a morph of a skill that heals you or heals party members. Or maybe you go and do a side quest and let's say you follow some kind of rogue side quest, and they give you a poison morph where it does an AoE poison in an area, you know, AoE, right? So I think this is awesome, and they could do a lot with it. So maybe they'll watch my video. Very doubtful. Maybe they'll watch it and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. We can have side quests that introduce new skills and have lore tied into why it's morphed that way." I think there's a lot of possibilities they can go with this direction, and I really enjoy or hope to enjoy unlocking all these skills that they plan on adding. All right, we have another housing. I'm just going to label it as a housing question, but it is different, so I'm going to cover it. Let's say hypothetically you have this hypothetical obsession with theater. Pretty much this person wants to have theater with a bunch of their friends, and they want to be able to host it and invite the community to watch their plays. Great question, great enthusiasm from this person. Awesome energy, awesome goals this person has. And of course, the devs respond with, yes, we love community-driven content. We want this to happen. How they're going to go about it, though, isn't 100% there. They said that it's going to be in the future. Nothing that they're going to have, or nothing to expect on release. Something that they're going to try and have to work on while releasing more content. Will there be special events that includes exclusive items, clothing, or even limited time boss raids? We are definitely planning on post-launch content. They enjoy how Final Fantasy XIV has holiday events. I really enjoy that too. I think that's awesome. That way if you get something, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, you have a new player that you're helping. They're like, oh, that's a really cool item. Where'd you get it? Be like, look, I was an OG player back in the day. That's just how I got this item. I love that. It just gives me a sense of accomplishment, especially being able to do these limited time events and stuff. I really like when games do that and when they make it fun and enjoyable. They said that they're a fan of how Final Fantasy XIV does that, and of course how other games do the same thing. They plan on taking their inspiration from those games. The quest system that we've built easily supports us adding cool and new events completed by yourself and even with other users. We're excited about the cool things that we'll release post-launch, and we can't wait to share it with you. Really great question, great answer, easy. Nothing's left into a broad scope like they usually do, but that's just how NDAs work, and I'm sure, they have certain ways they're allowed to answer stuff, so this was just a really great question. We have another community-driven question here. Will there be a system where players can give quests to each other? I really personally like this idea, and even the dev like it. They say that you don't expect it on launch, just like a lot of other stuff, but it's something that they want. They like this ideal, and just be really cool to see how the community is. So I like this ideal. I don't really see the point of it, though, to be honest, other than role-playing. I think it would be really cool, but to just go up and be like, post something on a quest board or something like that where other players can get it. It's like you could also just go and buy an item you need. So let's say you need so many of this item for potion making or whatever. It'd be cool if you post it to a board, but ultimately you could just go and buy those potions. Now it'd be like, hey, I need you to kill X amount of creatures. I don't see that being useful personally because creatures respawn. So someone will post that, they won't get any of the experience that they get, and they're spending money for you to kill creatures just so the creatures respawn. Maybe there's something like they need help with a quest, so that they put something on the board saying, hey, I need a party to do such and such quest, I'll pay you. That's the only real actual use I see this being. I do think it's a great ideal. I would love to see it work. I'm just not sure how they will get it to work. If you know any way to get this to work, please link in the description or go to this Discord channel. I'll have the link in the description and tell them how this is going to work. Go to the feedback option and be like, hey, this is something that's really cool, because I would love to see this added in. I just personally can't think of a way to make it work, especially with an open market as far as like an auction house goes. Okay, so this question I kind of covered earlier. In every game, there's a certain type of people, let's say cheaters, stalkers, trolls, spammers, so on. What systems are going to be put in place to make sure that these people have punishments, and are we going to be notified if that person is banned or punished? I think this is a huge deal, knowing that the person you reported is being punished, especially for things like, of course, cheating and all that's a huge deal, but at the end of the day, cheating really doesn't ruin your gameplay unless it's in PvP or something. PvE content, like, sure, it's not fair that people get faster clear times and so on and so forth, but it's super annoying if you're playing and then someone, like, let's say ninjas an item away from you, and then they like start talking mess to you, like I've mentioned before, and just give you harassment over you just wanting to play a game, and you've been in a dungeon, you've been fighting hard, and this person gets in just like, yeah, no, you're not getting this because you're not tank or whatever. That kind of behavior, I think, needs to be punished. Not necessarily with the ban, of course, but maybe like, hey, you're put in a dunce lobby like Grand Theft Auto 5 does, where if you just keep getting reported for being a jerk, then you're going to play with people that also are reported as a jerk for like 2 weeks or something like that. I'm not sure how effective that lobby actually is statistics wise, but I feel like that should be a thing. They go on to say, yes, there's going to be multiple anti-cheats and preventions in the game. They're also going to be paying close attention to the community and how they act and reports. So it's kind of a broad overall blanket statement a lot of games give out on these types of subjects. Doesn't really give me any confidence. But we'll see. Like I said, they do have a great PR thus far. Anything that you ask on the discussion is going to get answered either by another person, a moderator, and then sometimes even the Ramen VR staff come in and answer questions. So I have no lack of faith in this development team, but the more players you get, the harder it's going to be to connect with everyone. So in terms of whether or not action is taken, the team will use a set of clarity defined rules. Doesn't look like they're actually answering this, but still need to think through that a bit more. So obviously this is still kind of in development. They're not planning on a whole bunch of people being reported right off the bat, I guess, which is something normal, I suppose. There's not going to be a whole lot of content, so I mean, even having cheaters isn't going to be a huge deal. They're not focusing on PvP. Worst case scenario, you have someone going in dungeons, killing bosses very easily, or getting loot and kind of ruining the economy, but all that can be reset. There will always be cheating and trolls, and we'll have the ability for players to file reports. Okay, that's normal things. Public players' own experience gets too uncomfortable. Okay, so muting people really doesn't do much. I mean, I mute people, but yeah, safety bubbles. I wonder how that's defined, how that's going to be defined by them. I don't know if that's going to be like a passive mode in GTA 5 where you're able to be put in like an instance world or something. I guess that wouldn't really be like GTA 5, but I mean, GTA 5 does have that option where you can have your own world or maybe only friends, something like that. Something to that extent would be nice to see. But then again, it kind of breaks the immersion of the world, and I don't see Zenith going this route. So I wonder how they're going to define safety bubbles. Yeah, that's all for that question. Right. When engaged in PvE combat, will there be things like sword locks? Or you have to struggle to break the sword or weapon lock? Maybe if you win, it'll stagger or put the enemy off balance. Goes to a recent game that's been released. Reference, I assume that's what you're talking about. They say that they love this mechanic. I personally would like to see something like that too. If you're a tank, to have like a little mini game you have to play to maybe not take damage, or maybe you can knock them off balance so that they take more damage, things like that. I would love to see some type of mini game like this, or maybe something completely different, but just have something where the tank's just not sitting there with the shield up and then every now and again slashing a sword. So this would be really awesome to see implemented. I'm really excited to see how they're going to go on about this. This question here, when you're logged out, will you just disappear, or will your avatar sleep or something? We've talked about allowing offline avatars to stay in the game and continue performing actions for you. However, that's probably far off. The way our technology is set up does not preclude us from doing that. In fact, it's one of the strengths of spatial, but it would just be a lot of extra work right now. For now, your player avatar would just log off. This is kind of interesting to see. I'm not a huge fan of things like Black Desert Online where you have to keep your game running or something, or like when you're offline you have, for better or lack of words, slaves, because you just feed them beer that do work for you. It kind of takes away immersion for me to see that. I don't like the fact that people just log off either. Not that bothers me, but I think a really cool way to do this would be you have to walk to a bed or something, or you have to go to a guild house, you have to go to a tavern, to log out. And although that's really annoying, not everyone's going to be able to do that. Let's say you lose connection or something. I think there should be maybe a 2-hour window. If you default that 2-hour window, you're charged like 20 gold to transport you to the nearest tavern, something like that, not to where you can be attacked or anything, but it make it very immersive to have to do things like that. So we'll see what they do. They said that they don't know yet. Right now, it's just going to be the player logs off. What they plan to do eventually is have your character continue to perform actions. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that not only breaks immersion, but it's just, if I'm fishing or something, I want to be able to fish. Not that it's bad to be able to just, log off and then your character levels up for you or gets items for you. But, I mean, what's the point? I mean, the whole point of playing the game and getting stuff is for you to play the game. I'm not sure how y'all feel about that. Go ahead and leave in the description if you agree with that, or if you want to be able to log off and have your character level up for you or get items for you that you can sell on the market. Personally, that's not a big deal breaker to me. It doesn't really matter if they do it, but I would much rather see something like where you have to go to a bed or a tavern, guild hall, something more immersive, and actually log off. Again, that's not always going to be viable, so as a secondary or tertiary option, hey, if you're off for 2 hours, you log back in and then you get a screen, hey, an inn owner found you passed out on the street, you were charged $30 to transport to the inn. Something like that would be really awesome to see, so we'll see what they do there. All right, finally, some dungeon questions. Let's get to this. What is the current plan regarding dungeons? Will there be instance, open world, or no dungeons at all, and instead a BDO approach? All right, great question. Eventually, they want to do both. We're slotting both instance raids as well as world dungeons and world bosses like BDO. 100% they can verify right now there will be instance dungeons, raids, as well as more similar to Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. They just want to nail down the world dungeons before they move on to anything else, to get a good grasp of boss balance, I'm sure, and everything else, and how many people they're actually going to be able to support for a smooth experience, and how difficult those monsters need to scale, depending on how many players are there. They have a rough idea how they'd like to implement the system, so it shouldn't be too hard. They say with the software they're working with, again, they're going to be able to add and expand this world many times over. So this is just what they're starting with, and they may add something and then later be like, no, this just isn't working out, and take it out. So we'll see what they do here. I'm not a huge fan of BDO, like I said in the past. It has some good gameplay, but I don't like how they implemented a lot of the stuff they do. So we'll see what they do. I'm glad they're taking the safe approaches of just doing dungeons and then eventually adding public bosses and stuff, so that's going to be really interesting to see. Okay, and that's it for this video. Like I said, guys, I really appreciate you watching this. I've gained a lot of support and subscribers, a lot of views from my last video on Zenith MMO, so I will be covering a lot more on it. I'm going to be finishing up this section of the dev Q&A, pretty much is what it is, and next video, plan for it to be a lot shorter. I'll try to give my opinion a little less, but I do really want to know what you think about the things that were in this video, about how you think these changes would affect, or if they will or will not be able to pull it off. I just find it super interesting. I don't know how y'all are as hyped as I am about it. I don't know if y'all have the same answers, and I'm just really interested to know what y'all think about it. So go aheave and leave in the comments, and if you like this video, please give it a like.